Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 7th or 8th episode of Java Programming, where we're going to be learning about methods today. So, what are methods? Well, methods are just a batch of or a bunch of code, or a block of code, that is only executed when a method or a reference is mentioned somewhere in another line of code. So, somewhere in these numbers here. Now, why is that useful? Well, it's useful because you can break it up in parts so that it's not only more easily readable for people like us, but so that it can also be, so that your project can also be more scalable. So, with that out of the way, let's begin. So we're going to first start up with a scope, and we're going to call it private. What does these words mean? We've never covered them before. Private just means that no one except this class, the tutorial class, can ever see this this method. So no one but the tutorial class can see this method. Unlike this main method that is public, where everyone can see or call this method. Now we're going to call static, because we're going to call it in the main method, which is static. Now what does static do? Well, static just means that the method exists before calling the class, which sounds very confusing to newcomers, I understand. It sort of exists without being a part of something that sort of requires it to exist. But with more familiarity, you're going to get used to it and you're going to know how to manipulate it, even if you don't really fully understand how that works. So we're going to call void. What does void do? Void returns nothing. So it means nothing is returned here. So anyway, let's get that out of the way, and we're going to name our method how do I spell multiples? Should have paid attention in English, apparently. Multiples, multiplies of, it works. So we're going to call integer, and we're going to call this number, and we're going to have our curly brackets in here. Now what is this method going to do? Well, it's just going to get a bunch of multiples of a number. It's going to get 10, in fact, because, well, 10 seems like a good number. So if the input in here, the argument passed is the number 2, then it will go up from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, and then finally 20. So since we know the limit of this program, we're going to call in the for method. We're going to int I, I'm going to say it's equal to the number, and we're going to say while I is less than or equal to number times 10, we're going to say I is plus 2 or equal to number, which means it just gets the value of number and just adds on to it. So if the number is 2, which it is, if we call it, then if this condition is true, then it's going to add on another 2. Then it's going to be 4, and if this condition is still true, then it's going to be 6, and then 8, then 10. But we're going to get a string, because we want to print this out in a string format, because we want a list of multiples. So, well, I guess list is the closest word for it. And then I guess we're going to call this output. And we're just going to initialize it like this, like so. And we're just going to say output is equal to I, and we're going to call this should work. And then we're going to say in here system.out.println, and we're just going to say output. And then inside here, we're going to reference the method. We're going to say multiples of, and we're going to put in a number, which is 2. So hopefully this works first try. And it doesn't. Why not? So the answer is just 20 because we have to add that in here, which just adds on to the thing because of concentration. So once we get that out of the way, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So that's cool. And we're going to say, we're going to have a if statement in here, and we're going to say if I is less than or equal, actually, no, we'll continue like this, just for the sake of continuity. So if I is less than or equal to number times 9, then it's going to do this. Otherwise, or else, it's just going to have output plus or equals to I. Now, hopefully this still works, and I don't have to fix anything whatsoever. Yep, here we go. Now we don't have the comma at the end here. So we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Splendid. So again, we can just call this method again for whatever amount of times we want. In fact, we can have a method that runs this method if we wanted to. So once we run this, we're going to see a list of multiples. So here's the multiples for 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you can see why that's pretty useful, because it would be a pain for people like, well, you and me, if we had to do something along the lines of, let me just give you an example here. Like, imagine having to do this over and over and over again. It's just messy. Why do that when you can have a method do it for you? So let's just get rid of all of that now. Now we're gonna use another a return value, and we're gonna call this one string. So instead of system.out.println, we're just gonna say return, and it's always return, and we're gonna say output. So it wants to return a string, output is a string, so it returns output. But now you'll notice if we call this, what happened? Sorry. Now that if we call this, you're going to notice that nothing happened anymore. Well, this is just an example, but you can just have it inside it like this, if you wished. Like so, and it'll work exactly the same way. Looks a little more messier, that's true. But if you wanted to use it for another action, not just printing it out, you can do it like this. So just change the values, and we got one more left over. And as you can see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So we got the multiples of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And just before we end up, you can also specify another argument in here. So I can say the limit, and I can say, well, I is less than a number times the limit. Then we can continue to run this. So instead of 10, it can be 20. So hopefully you understand that. So thank you guys for watching this short tutorial on Java methods or object-oriented programming methods. And I hope to see you where we're going to be looking at classes and how to implement them. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.